Oh, I know very well how the secrets beckon so sweetly. Only an honest death will kill you now. From your wild curiosity.
What it do, y'all? You already know, but in case you don't, let me let you know. Again, this is none other than yours truly, the Savior Souls, and we back at you with another video to destroy the Fagotsons, to destroy the Feraza, and man, oh shit, man, it is crazy. This shit is crazy. You can beat somebody's ass and don't even gotta lift a finger to do it. You can beat somebody's ass mentally, and because I've already done it physically. Like, why? What? I don't need to face him. Why? I don't consider him the way he looks at me, which is without a doubt a lie. But let's move away from that. Let's go to something positive, y'all. I know y'all seen my boy Jin. My favorite Tekken character, Jin Kazama. In case you don't know who he is, now you know. The emo, it doesn't mean I like emo, man. I didn't know he was like this until, you know, somebody told me, like, bro, man, that nigga emo. What the fuck are you, man? Like, what the fuck is emo? You know, those kids. Oh yeah, man. I know anybody who has social media has seen those kids down there with the baggy pants, the fucking wallets that's connected to a chain, standing there crimp dancing, doing all that extra shit. I know y'all seen that silly ass shit, bro. I seen like, what the fuck was that song? I forget the name of the artist, but I remember I seen them dancing to "Oh My Niggas Retarded." I was fucking dead when I seen that. So anyway, man, Tekken 8 is coming. We probably got at least 2 years before we actually physically get the game, or digitally get the game. I finally have a reason to get fucking Tekken. I mean, PS5, even though, you know, I was gonna get it because of Demon Souls, but you know, I heard nobody talks about Demon Souls. You know, people to this day still talk about Dark Souls before they talk about Demon Souls, which is mind blowing, because Demon Souls is one of the, you know, threshold games that thrust you into the world of the Soulsborne. One of the best Souls games. But people still talk more about Elden Ring. Elden Ring was indeed a phenomenon. Indeed a phenomenon. This isn't about Elden Ring. This isn't about that game. Elden Ring had its time, and Elden Ring still will have many more times. But now it's time for one of my favorite fighting games, other than Dissidia NT that you see here. One of my other fighting games and I'm very passionate about is Tekken. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of Tekken on this channel because, honestly, I felt very burnt out. I felt very burnt out when it came to Tekken. Like, to be honest, the main man Sweet summed it up. It's looking at the same character models. I've reached a decent rank in there, and where I feel comfortable with my knowledge and my ability, you know. What else? But mainly, man, this feels like the upgrade we got back in the day from Tekken 1 to Tekken Tag. The graphical differences, or or I should really say Tekken 4 for me, because I believe, you know, for me, Tekken 4 was my first Tekken game, so no wonder I'm a Jin fan, because, you know, Jin was, he was always the main star of the game, you know, he's like the main character, you know, Jin Kazama, you know, fighting, you know, something happened to his mom. I'm pretty sure you guys can look up Jin Kazama, find out who he is, if that's what you want to do, to get a narrative understanding of who Jin Kazama is, what's happened to him in his life, etc. That's led up to this moment, this confrontation between Kazuya Mishima, and is without a shadow of a doubt the best graphical lift-off since Final Fantasy VII was, and this is probably one of the only times I'll ever speak highly of 7, from 6 to 7, and another graphical enhance that we've seen that no one speaks on is from 12 to 13. 13 has a night and day difference compared to all of the other Final Fantasies from back in the day. A lot of y'all probably don't know that because you're probably not even that old. You know, go back and look at Terror's, well, not to start no shit. Let's not say Terror. Go back and look at Kane's Final Fantasy and then compare that to any mainstream Final Fantasy. To the original 13 when that dropped. 13 was groundbreaking graphically. You know, 15 is groundbreaking graphically, but I don't think it's too far off from even 7 Remake isn't necessarily that much of a step ahead, to be honest. It's, I mean, unfortunately for 13, graphically it started to decline slightly in the games as they came out, but Lightning Returns will always be my favorite, you know, because Lightning's my favorite. She symbolizes change. She symbolizes becoming what you need to become, you know, becoming something that you need to be, you know. Sephiroth, you know, embodies the pains of life. So does Cloud to a degree when Aerith died. You know, the one thing that, you know, all Final Fantasy VII fans should recognize is Aerith's death. You know, that a lot of fans, you know, but they're too fixated on whether Tifa is a male or a female, you know. Unfortunately, I think the writing is the true beauty of a character. Other than their looks, which Lightning like completely knocks Tifa out of the water. You know, like if Lightning's around, I wouldn't touch Tifa with a 10-foot pole. Sorry, Tifa mains. Not happening. But, well, even with Lightning wouldn't be around, I still wouldn't touch her with a 10-foot pole. She looked too basic. She's like your basic Walmart girl, bro. A girl you can pick up and talking to her in Walmart. This is turning into something that it shouldn't have been, though. But man, let's get back on track with Tekken 8. And also, something else I want to say, right? Like, if we get in Tekken 8, right? Namco is notorious for this. It probably won't be too long for we see that in Soul Calibur 7 or another Soul Calibur. I hope it's not a reboot and it's an actual new Soul Calibur. And the one thing that Soul Calibur has been notorious for doing wrong, or getting wrong, and what they did wrong in Soul Calibur 5 was excuse me, I hiccup. What they did wrong in Soul Calibur 5 was introduce characters like Patroclus, Pyrrha, Zion, I think, or what's her name, Zhonggua's daughter, or, you know, introduce. I mean, it's not a bad concept to introduce kids. Like if Jin ever gets with Ling Xiaoyu, they finally grow up and have kids. You know, you kind of know how hard that's going to be. You know, you see how hard Boruto flopped, unless you were like a hardcore spag for Naruto. Unless you were a hardcore spag for Naruto, there's nothing in Boruto that is as interesting as anything that went down in Naruto. I'm sorry. Not to talk shit about the series, but that's, I mean, come up with a convincing argument then. That's all I'll say. But, you know, it's not as compelling as a series, nor has it ever been introducing people's children into the series. This is why multiple, you know, this is why Final Fantasy VII Remake, with all the new stuff they're adding, is being very, very delicate with adding new characters and things and nuances. You know, they're being very delicate about it because they are good storytellers. Square Enix. They are probably the best storytellers out there, in my opinion. You know, whilst attempting to cater to fans, and, you know. But there's something I gotta say about the fan base as a whole. And I'll say it towards the end of the video if you guys stick around or you want to fast forward for that. But let's get into Tekken 8 story and what I think it's going to entail. This is just a hypothesis, which is headcanon as a whole. This is not true. Harada has not released any details about the story as a whole. You know, from what they say, from what Jennings said about Kazuya in the story, you know, people like us doesn't deserve life in this world. You know, I think that is a meaningful statement for people who do wrongs to people who hurt other one's loved ones, people who hurt people. You know, this is not to be morbid or dark, but this is why the death row sentence exists in this world. Not because we're cannibals, but because certain acts that we do to people in this world, as much as the sort of discussions that I've had with people like this, just go on with life, it's all good, forget about him and what they did. You know, everything you do in this world comes back on you in some shape, form, or fashion. Whether it be in the dark times that you sit alone, thinking that you have what you want, and you're doing what you want. You have what you need, we're saying, you know. Whether you sit alone, something happens to you when you're not portraying who you are on this screen. When you're not, you know, etc. There's, you know, life happens, right? These things you would never dare do to someone in real life. For, you know, throughout history there has been consequences for things that we do to people. You know.
Couldn't have gone better. We hope in the face of despair.
For cowards. You know, just like killing someone in Jin's eyes would be cowardly. This is why this is also consistent with his character when he accidentally killed Miguel's sister. And Miguel doesn't realize that it was an accident to begin with. You know, but he realized he did do it. He didn't want to fight. He didn't want to raise his hand because he believed he had no right to raise your hand for taking an innocent life. You have no right to defend yourself. Hence is the reason why the very morbid and dark death row exists. You take life, yours should be forfeit. You know, unfortunately, this is the truth of the world. This is the truth of mankind. This is the truth of being a human. This is the truth of being a person. But, you know, and I think that Tekken embodies that concept very well, but it's kind of hidden. You know, you gotta know what exactly happened in Tekken 7. You know, he was fighting him because, you know, the reason Heihachi was so hard on on Kazuya is because he wanted him to be strong. He didn't want him to be taken advantage of the way his wife took advantage of him. The way people are in his world, you know. Things of that nature, the way people are in his world, etc. You know. It's so... It's heart-wrenching, but it shows you the sort of father Heihachi is, and the sort of man he is, and most women nowadays. No, don't let the boys fight, don't let them do that, let them do this, and all that. You know, too much pampering is a bad thing. You know, I'm not saying expose him to becoming wicked, but Kazuya kind of took the things that happened to him to heart. But Jin believes that he still has a heart. Because Jin exists. How did Jin get there? Kazuya would have, technically, story-wise, he would have to have loved someone to lay down with her and have kids. Well, he loved a woman named Jun Kazama. Which I hope and I don't hope makes a comeback in this series. The only known force to deactivate Devil Jin was Jun's presence. Was known to deactivate the Devil Jin as a whole. Just her presence could shut Jin down in an instant without having to even fight him. You know, because he's not truly a bad person, but he lets the demonic nature of the Devil Jin take over him to win fights. You know, and he taps into it, and and this is kind of a stretch, but he taps into it the same way Goku kind of taps into Ultra Instinct via the manga, technically at the moment. Bits and pieces of it, as we see bits and pieces of Devil Jin emerge in the trailer through the cinematic of the Rage Art that we can assume is a Rage Art. It looks Rage Art like, you know, just like Tailspin looks Tailspin like when it hit him in the trailer. If you watch it, by the way, there will be a link in the description in the trailer. I know I've said a lot of stuff, man. I hope Soul Calibur 7 is a thing. Maybe I can rampage over Europe again. And this time the Azure Hunter, he can bear witness to the darkness that only the Soul Edge can bring. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there, won't we? Man. It is amazing, these graphics, bro. And I'm gonna say that, well, most games don't come out looking the way they do in trailer, but they said certain things are subject to change. But if this is truly how it looks, the game we're going to get, which all of the Tekken trailers look how, you know, they all look what the normal game looks like. That's always the exact same character models that they use. The same lighting effects. All of those things. The same lighting effects, etc. You know, these things are like they're speechless the way I see how this game looks. And I said this about Final Fantasy 15 when it first came out. Before I ever started putting YouTube videos out, I said this game looks like it's going to be Game of the Year. Unfortunately, it wasn't. But I wanted it to be before I ever made my channel. I'm like, bro, 15 looks like it's going to be insane. And I wish that it was, but unfortunately it turned into a road trip. Which, power scaling wise, I'm glad it did. Because Noctis would be multiversal as well. In his own game, but thank God he's not from Novel Crystallia no more. Neither is Ace. Uh-oh. No, they're not from Novel Crystallia. They don't got nothing to do with my Claire. Sound nasty. Oh man. Speaking of that though, man, imagine this, right? Imagine if we had a Dissidia that looked like Tekken 7. You know, imagine if we didn't complain about high-priced DLC and actually funded the game. Like, you know, actually funded the game like most people fund other games by buying DLCs and things like that. And if we wanted this, imagine if we treated it like Final Fantasy 14. But since there's no create a character mode and there's not a bunch of guys that fight like Yuna, you know, even though there are a bunch of guys that do actually fight like Yuna, you know, here, you know, we could have had nice things, but instead we want to treat everyone badly, point the finger, you know, we want to be trolls and continue the cycle of hatred, you know what I mean? You know, everybody has ulterior motives. Not all of them are bad, but most of them are quite bad.
That's how it's done.
Man, the nice things we could have had. Hey man, but I'm not complaining. I am completely fine with it. You know, wanna know why? Because I can plug up my PS3 and I can play Lightning Returns, 13-2, and 13. All I want. And I don't have to deal with a single one of them. This has been the Save Your Souls, the best Lightning main out here. Destroyer of N and the Destroyer of the Fagatsus, man. And we'll catch y'all later.
The messenger is standing at the gate, ready to let go, ready for the crush of the messenger. Too late for whispers, too late for the blush. The past is mercy when the future's low. Kneeling journey dressed in the cloak of shadows. The hunting's grin for